Welcome to Hodgepodge Australia. Today we are making Frozen 2 inspired cake pops. What you're going to need for this is you can either bake yourself a cake, or if you have some leftover cake tops, which I certainly do, you can put them to good use, blitz them up and turn them into some cake pops. Simply breaking up pieces, I have a handy little Tupperware hand mixer here. You can also use a big food processor if you feel like getting it out. I didn't feel like getting mine out and having to set it up, and this one, like an old lawnmower, you just pull the cord and it rips it around and turns these lovely cake tops into breadcrumb-like consistency. So just keep going, breaking all of these up until you have a nice breadcrumb-like consistency. When you are happy with your consistency, you're going to want some white chocolate ganache, or you can also use buttercream, but I love a white chocolate ganache. It gives it that lovely rich texture when you're biting into them. And you're going to want a baking paper lined cake tray. So just mixing some white chocolate ganache with your crumbled up cake. Now this consistency I have done, unfortunately my long video on making these, the camera wasn't turned on. So this is my short version of this one with the leftovers once I realized that I had not recorded my entire thing. So mixing some ganache, only add little bits at a time, otherwise you're going to end up with a sloppy consistency. You want more of a firm. This one, unfortunately, I did add a bit too much ganache, but thankfully, as I mentioned, it is my leftovers. So I already had my perfect cake pops already made and chilling in the fridge. So this was just to show you. You're going to mix the ganache together with your cake breadcrumbs and roll them into the ball size that you want. Try to keep them all nice and equal because obviously that looks the nicest. Here are my lovely already pre-chilled ones ready to go. So just pop those into the fridge, make them nice and firm, and then you're going to want some melted white chocolate and your straws or cake pop sticks. You can use lollipop sticks, whatever you want to use. I like the straws because you can get them in all different patterns. Dip the straw into some white chocolate, and then as you can see there, I am twisting the straw in. I'm not just pushing it down into the cake pop because that's going to give you the chance of misshaping your cake pop, and it also just goes in easier. So dip the straw into some white chocolate, then grab your cake pop and simply give it a small little twist in all the way through. I like to go pretty much right to the other side of my cake pop. That way I know that it's well and truly in there. You can also tidy up the little bit of chocolate on the top of your cake pop if you would like to. It's personal preference. I'm not worrying about it with all of mine, to be honest, because I'm going to be re-dipping them in another color chocolate anyway, and I'll just make sure that that white section is covered up. So continue to do this for all of your cake pops, and then you're simply going to put it back in the fridge to chill and set. That way your cake pops are not going to come off their straws when you're dipping them in your final color. While you're waiting for us to finish putting our straws in our cake pops, why not subscribe to the channel and hit like on this video so that I know which ones you want to see in the future. Moving on to our decorations, you can see I have 4 different colours here. The silver and green are bought from the store, but the blue and purple have been made by me using caster sugar and food colouring. And then we're going to want a nice deep cup with white chocolate. You can see I have then melted. And it's nicer to have a deep cup, not a wide cup, a nice thin deep cup, because then you get that height of the chocolate. It makes it so much easier to dip your cake pop in. You can see there I've just taken one of the cake pops, I've dipped it all the way down, and as you can see again, I'm making sure that I've covered that top first cold section of chocolate from where we dipped our straw in. And now I'm literally just lightly tapping the straw to shake off any excess chocolate. This is where the time comes in on cake pops. You have to be patient with this, otherwise you're going to end up with clumps on your chocolate. So just taking your time to give it little bits of twirls, a couple of little bits of tapping on to try and get your excess off. Make sure you're happy with your final product, the bottom. It doesn't really matter so much for the bottom because these are upside down cake pops, meaning that we're resting them with the stick coming up. You need to really finesse that cake pop if you're having them up the other way where you're making them look like lollipops. So you have a little bit more flexibility this way because it can have a bit more of a square bottom because you're going to be sitting it up anyway. Then you simply take your cake pop into the sugar dusting of your choice and cover it. You can either do it as you have seen me do there with the white, using my fingers, which then just gets in the way and gets messy, or you can roll it around. I then actually ended up opting for a measuring spoon, which you'll see on the next one. So dipping it in, tapping it off, making sure any imperfections have come off, and then I'm going to use a little measuring spoon to help me coat it because this sugar is a little bit finer So dipping it on, and it also keeps everything a lot cleaner. We're going to do this with we've done the silver, we've done green, we've now got blue, and we've got purple, because for Frozen 2 I've done the blue and the silver for Elsa. That's very much her colours. And I found that Anna really leans towards the greens and the purples. Make sure you hit like on this video too if you have seen Frozen 2 already. We went and saw it, and my goodness, I absolutely loved it. I have not stopped listening to the Frozen 2 soundtrack for the last couple of weeks. Now we're going to finish off these cake pops with some snowflakes, because of course they are quintessential to the Frozen storyline. So we're going to roll out some white fondant. We don't want it too thin because we want some nice chunky snowflakes. Plus, these are so delicate. The little bits coming off the edges of the snowflakes, I guess they're little prongs, are so delicate. So if you have this nice and thin, you're going to break them so many times. Take my word for it. Now, just using my lovely Luster blush brush, I'm going to paint my white fondant with a lovely silver. This does save you time. I did try doing them individually first, and it's just frustrating. So cover the white fondant first in your silver, and then cut out your snowflake shapes. Now, this snowflake cutter, as beautiful as it is, it's so hard getting these snowflakes out. But I'm going to cut out silver snowflakes for all of my cake pops, and then I'm just going to let them dry a little bit before we attach them to the cake. Speaking of attaching them to the cake, simply melt some more white chocolate, pop it into a Ziploc bag, because then it just saves you using another piping bag. You can also use a spoon if you want, but these are very fiddly, so I recommend popping them into a Ziploc bag and just cutting just the edge of the Ziploc bag off to make yourself a very nice small hole. Pipe a little bit of white chocolate onto the back of your snowflake, and then delicately place it onto your cake pop. As I mentioned, these little edges on the snowflakes are very finicky and they are prone to breaking. Another way that you can do it is to pop some white chocolate on the back of your snowflake, and then bring your cake pop up to meet your snowflake. So rather than trying to bend it and have it land in the perfect position, you can see there I'm just going to tilt my cake pop so that I really have a bit more control on where that snowflake lands on the cake pop, and it's not going to slip down and fall out of my hand and fall halfway down the cake pop. And that is how you make Frozen 2 inspired cake pops with the beautiful theme. I really love these. My kids thought they were absolutely delicious, and I would be happy to have them on any Frozen themed party table. If you do recreate these cake pops, I would love to see them. Make sure you hit us up on social media. We're on Instagram and on Twitter. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again real soon.